Imagine taking a whole year to travel around the world, experiencing its most spectacular places, each at the ideal time of year. It's something many people dream about, but for us, that dream's about to come true. We're on a journey around the planet as thrilling, thought-provoking, and wondrous as the world itself. We're on our way to some of the world's wildest places, some of its most sophisticated ones too. And each we're visiting in exciting ways so that we can experience its beauties to the full. There is no doubt about it. This is our journey of a lifetime. In the final leg of our journey, we explore the wonders of Australia, before travelling on to the Hawaiian Islands and then the Americas. We visit San Francisco, followed by the astonishing Grand Canyon, before heading south to the magical land of Peru. As the year ends, our journey comes to a close in the northeastern United States, Vermont, and New York. But first, Australia. It's September, a cool spring month here in the Antipodes. The perfect time to experience this land of vibrant cities, glowing deserts, and luxuriant coastlines. The final goal of our Australian travels is to witness a remarkable natural event that takes place once a year on the legendary Great Barrier Reef. But before we take in Australia's natural wonders, we're going to take in one of its man-made ones, the city of Sydney. The centrepiece of any trip to Sydney has to be the famous harbour, and we're going to board a very special vessel to take us around it. A replica of the famous 18th century ship, the Bounty. A legendary mutiny, immortalised in Hollywood epics, in fact took place thousands of kilometres away, across the South Pacific, and had nothing whatsoever to do with Australia, but someone here decided that this would be a fun way to see the harbour. So why not? That sense of fun is very typical of Australians. It's one of the real charms of the place. As we climb on board, passing our latter-day Captain Guy, his crew weigh anchor, and we're away. The first sight we see is the famous Opera House. Perhaps the first thing that alerted the rest of the world that Australia was a cultural force to be reckoned with. Commissioned in 1954 as an act of real daring by the city's fathers, they discovered its design was so ambitious and so absolutely original that nobody had the faintest idea how to build it. Nevertheless, they persevered. 15 years later, and 15 times the original budget, the Opera House was finally completed. It was an instant success, and immediately became one of the world's most famous buildings and Sydney's most unmistakable landmark. Sydney is a city that revels in the new and futuristic. Perhaps that will not surprise some people who think of Australia as a new world country. After all, Europeans only settled here 200 years ago. Of course, it's been inhabited for millennia, and its landscapes are some of the oldest on the planet. As we travel on into Australia's heartland, we're going to experience the amazing diversity of this country. We're heading right into the centre of Australia, a world that is as harsh as it is beautiful, the legendary outback. Also known as Ayers Rock, is one of the world's largest monoliths. It rises more than 300 metres out of the central Australian desert and is 550 million years old. All around, as far as the eye can see, glowing desert stretched to the horizon. It's a stunning sight. Uluru is one of the most remarkable natural rock formations on Earth, and we've flown here to the very heart of Australia to experience its unique primeval magic. Once here, you realise immediately why the Aboriginal Australians, who first peopled this land over 50,000 years ago, should be so certain this is a sacred place. The rock breathes an aura of mystery. Here the Aboriginals say they feel the dream time, their ancestral spirit world, close at hand. For millennia, Aboriginal Australians have come to these caves to invoke their ancestors and immerse themselves in the dream time. These enigmatic paintings, etched on these walls, are testimony to their profound link with this place. Uluru is one of Australia's most impressive natural wonders. But then there are so many. Many of them are born of the sea and the almost 64,000 kilometres of Australia's coastline. We have travelled almost 1,600 kilometres from Uluru and are flying over the coast of Queensland. 6,400 kilometres of unspoiled tropical shoreline and home to the largest coral reef in the world, the Great Barrier Reef. Before exploring it, we had a chance to observe some of Australia's remarkable wildlife. Australia is in fact the world's largest island. Isolated for eons of time and with few predators, animal species here were free to evolve in their own special way. As a result, Australia's wildlife is unique and the most bizarre on the planet. To witness, perhaps, the greatest of Australia's wonders, we have to go back to the beaches of Queensland and dive deep into the Pacific Ocean. As we sink beneath beneath the surface, it looms almost immediately into view. The largest coral reef on the planet, and truly one of the greatest marvels of the natural world, the Great Barrier Reef. Over 2,200 kilometers long, and made up entirely of the bodies of tiny sea creatures called polyps, the Great Barrier Reef supports the most diverse ecosystem known to man. To swim through its teeming waters is an awe-inspiring experience. But we've come here, specifically at this time, the autumn, to witness a very remarkable event. They say that the reef is the world's largest living thing, and we're about to get a dramatic demonstration of that. To survive and grow, the reef must reproduce, and it does that every year at this time, when the millions of tiny polyps release their reproductive cells into the water. Few hours, clouds of eggs fill the warm waters of the Pacific. It's an astonishing sight. It's hard to leave this dreamlike underwater beauty of the reef, but there is another astonishing place in the Pacific Ocean for us to see. Far to the east, our next destination is one of the most dramatic and beautiful places in the world, the Hawaiian Islands. Most people come to Hawaii for its beaches and surf, but we're here for its fire. Our travels through this remote Pacific archipelago will be an amazing journey into geological history. In fact, Hawaii is so remote, it took us humans a long time to discover it. Marooned in the center of the Pacific Ocean, it is over 3,200 kilometers from the nearest land. The first people to arrive here were intrepid Polynesian sailors who crossed the vast expanses of the Pacific in their double-hulled canoes only 1,000 years ago. But we're here to delve into the very special geology of the Hawaiian Islands. Each island is a huge volcano pushed up from the ocean floor by the titanic forces spewing up from the Earth's core. Incredibly, those forces are still at work. While some volcanoes are now extinct, others are cooling down, and still others are about to erupt. We're going to follow the course of that volcanic activity from Old Island to guide is going to show us the amazing landscape formed by the ancient extinct volcanoes. Our pilot lifts our helicopter off the ground and we head for the center of the island. Hawaii was created about 25 million years ago. That may sound like a long time, but in geological terms, it was just yesterday. In the island's center, rising over 1,500 meters above sea level, is the most dramatic vestige of the gigantic eruption that formed it. Mount Waiolioli, which means in Hawaiian, the mountain of overflowing water. It doesn't take us long to see why. This extinct volcano is one of the wettest places on the planet, with an average annual rainfall of 1,270 centimeters a year. Everywhere, water cascades down its lush green slopes. It's a breathtaking sight. From Kauai, we travel to Maui, a younger island, on which the same volcanic forces that formed Kauai have been at work much more recently. As we drive through Volcanoes National Park, this remarkable landscape of black lava surrounding us is testament to the fiery eruptions which created the island. A walk across the solidified lava, which looks solid but is in fact spongy, is a surprising experience. Even more surprising is to visit one of Maui's amazing lava tubes. Here we can actually walk down the tube, surrounded by the mysterious signs of the molten lava that once spewed through it from the bowels of the earth. But the place to really contemplate the astonishing volcanic forces erupting from the Earth's core is the island of Hawaii. Youngest of all the islands, and the final destination of our journey back in geological time. Here, lava and steam still gush from the bowels of the earth in a continuous explosion of volcanic energy. This is molten rock, heated over 1,000 degrees centigrade. With the ground shuddering and sighing beneath our feet, the sensation of the earth as a titanic living thing is overwhelming. Volcanoes are a mesmerizing sight, but it's time to move on and continue our journey eastward, far across the Pacific to the shores of North America. It's dawn. and already the first surfers have come down to the beach to test the seas. Just time to ride some waves before going to work. If we didn't know it already, we know it now. This is California. It's the first stop on our epic tour of the Americas, which will take us to the Grand Canyon, then Peru, and back north again to the eastern United States. But first, a taste of that world-famous thing, the California Dream. Our driver and his gleaming 1964 Cadillac convertible are waiting. Time to climb in and head down the beautiful sun-drenched coastline of Northern California to the city where the California Dream started, San Francisco. To get there, we have to cross one of the most famous bridges in the world, the Golden Gate. San Francisco has always been a city of possibilities and wild freedoms. When we drive through the city, we're reminded of them at every turn. In the 1960s, era of rock festivals and lobbyings, a whole generation made the city its capital. Here, in the Haight-Ashbury district, you still feel the heady atmosphere of fun and defiant imagination that fed that freedom-loving generation. Long before the 1960s, there was another San Francisco dream. Perhaps the most intoxicating of all. Gold. The wild frontier city, built by the gold rush, was destroyed by the famous San Francisco earthquake of 1906. But in its place has been built the gracious city of sunshine and clean sea air that is San Francisco today. To explore San Francisco further, we're going to take a ride in one of the city's famous cable cars. No visit here would be complete without it. For over a century, they've been carrying the people of San Francisco over the steep hills of their gorgeous city. And now, Fanny Barnes, the first woman cable car driver in that long history, is going to take us over those hills too. These indestructible old cable cars were the brainchild of Andrew Halliday, a British inventor who in 1869 saw a horse that was hauling a loaded cart up one of the city's steep hills slip and be dragged to its death. Appalled, he devised a safer system of transport, and within 8 years, the first San Francisco cable cars were in operation. To this day, the cable cars are a vital part of the city's transport. Perhaps it's the beauty of its bay and coastline. Perhaps it's the movies. But everything about San Francisco seems bathed in a mythical glow. It really is a city of dreams. But as night falls and the moon rises, our visit comes to an end. Our next destination lies far to the southeast of San Francisco and is one of the most dramatic landscapes in the world. Stretched over 5,000 square kilometers of the American Southwest, a breathtaking expanse of chasms and towering stone bluffs. One of the natural wonders of the world, the Grand Canyon. We're here in October, when the baking heat of the canyon floor has cooled. Awaiting us far below is an exciting whitewater rafting trip down the Colorado River. Many people visit the Grand Canyon, and all of them expect to marvel at its grandeur. Few are prepared for how disconcerting this vast landscape can be. So absolutely primeval, and on such a gigantic scale, everything human seems to pale into insignificance beside it. Parts of these canyons are an unimaginable 2 billion years old and were formed long before any living thing existed on Earth. Their haunting desolation leaves a lasting impression. A mule ride is going to take us deeper into the canyon towards the real goal of our visit here. The rapids of the Colorado River, far below. We're retracing the steps of one of the first white men to explore the canyon, John Wesley Powell. In 1869 he wrote the following: August 13th. We are ready to start on our way down the great unknown. We are 3/4 of a mile in the depths of the earth, and the great river shrinks into insignificance. We are but pygmies, lost among the boulders. His words perfectly describe the humbling experience of this vast landscape, and are as true today as when Powell wrote them. The river, of course, is the Colorado. This mighty river courses through the canyon floor. In places, it's carved a mile-deep channel into the ancient rock. Now its racing waters are going to give us one of the most exciting experiences of our whole journey. A whitewater rafting ride. The Colorado River rises in the Rocky Mountains and flows for over 2,000 kilometers to the Californian coast. For most of its course, placid waters are squeezed between the massive walls of the canyon. And at the same time, he plunges 609 meters downwards. The result is one of the most spectacular rapids anywhere in the world. To climb them is an exhilarating experience. Finally, as the water leaves the canyon, it calms down and the serene grandeur of the place engulfs us again. Our visit to the Grand Canyon comes to an end. Ahead of us is our next destination. "5,000 kilometers to the south, a land of towering mountains and dense jungles, Peru." We're going to take a memorable and unusual journey from the high Andes, heartland of one of the world's great civilizations, down into the lowlands and one of the world's last great wildernesses, the Amazon jungle. Our voyage starts in the spectacular citadel built by the Incas at Machu Picchu. Here, the high priests of the Incas paid homage to the mountains, their gods. Around them spread an empire stretching 3,000 kilometers along the mountain spine of South America. All the way from what is today Ecuador to Argentina. The empire is long gone, but the descendants of the Incas still people these mountains. Their language and culture are as alive today as they were 500 years ago. Our Peruvian journey starts in the center of the ancient Inca civilization, but it is going to take us on a journey no Inca could ever have imagined, far beyond the borders of their empire, into the wild lands to the east. We set off in our four-wheel drive down the eastern slopes of the Andes towards the land the Incas called Antisuyo, a place they considered savage, frightening, and uncivilized, the Amazon jungle. As we travel down the eastern slope of the Andes, everywhere water is moving with us, streaming from the snow-capped peaks of the Andes down towards the jungle. The foothills of the Andes make one of the most stupendous landscapes in the world, and we're going to travel through it, following the course of those waters as they head towards the Amazon. As we descend further and further towards the jungle, the heat grows and the vegetation around us becomes more tropical. Before long, the road comes to an end. It's time to switch vehicles and climb aboard the only thing that can take us as deep into the jungle as we want to go. As we take to the skies in our little 5-seater airplane, magnificent vistas of tropical forest unfold beneath us. In a high jungle, the rainforest clambers up the low foothills of the Andes to create a gorgeous landscape of cliffs, racing rivers, and towering escarpments. As we fly east, the hills diminish, the landscape flattens, and finally, as we approach the line of the last Andean foothills, we see beyond them the vastness of the Amazon jungle, stretching unbroken to the horizon. The Amazon basin have been devastated by development. But here, in eastern Peru, the awe-inspiring grandeur of the forest can still be experienced. There is nothing on the planet to equal it. The Amazon is a world shrouded in myth. Most foreigners who visit it decide either that it's a green hell of disease and dangerous animals, or it's an image of paradise itself. Very few get a taste of the surprising reality of the Amazon that we will experience. Our Amazon journey starts in a small ramshackle frontier town, like so many that dot the remote parts of the jungle. Upon arrival, eager to get a taste of the jungle, we set off with some of the local Indians into the forest. We immediately get a chance to drink in the very special atmosphere of the rainforest. The astonishing sounds of the million insects and birds swell from the forest's impenetrable recesses. We soon discover that this is a world in which you hear everything, but because of the profusion of foliage, we see very little. By far the best way to explore the jungle and see some of its wildlife is by river. Our guides come to collect us in the boat and take us upriver and into some of the remotest recesses of the rainforest. With them is one of the most important wise men and healers of the Yaminawa tribe. His name is Kongarua. The clothes and haircut may be Western, but he is totally imbued with the traditional world of his ancestors. When we stop at one of the small islands in the river, he tells us something about his life. He is almost 80. And grew up in a world which knew nothing of white men, he says. The meeting with the outside world changed many things, but not the way he and his people think. He feels the spirit world of his ancestors around him, as close as ever. His power as a shaman, he is saying, doesn't come from people, but from the forest. Go take a look, he says. and feel the power of the forest for yourselves. It's an invitation we're happy to accept. We set off up one of the main branches of the Upper Amazon into one of the last great untouched rainforests on the planet. As we sail upriver, the life of the jungle unfolds around us. Words in, before relatives of the Kobu clamber through the riverside foliage with their clawed wings. Macaws gather on clay cliffs to lick the salt from the clay. Woolly monkeys swing from tree to tree. The life of the forest seems inexhaustible, but of course it isn't. Every year, an area of rainforest the size of Switzerland is cut down to make way for development. A sobering thought, but all the more reason to relish this island of untouched forest, home not only to Amazonian wildlife, but also to the spirits of the forest that sustain Komaroa and his people. The rainforest shelters not only a large part of the world's natural biodiversity, but also its cultural diversity. Here live countless possibilities of the human spirit and imagination. As long as there are forests here, Komaroa's cultural heritage and that of other Amazonian Indians will continue to flourish. From the Amazon to Vermont in the far northeast of the United States is a long journey. But we are making it for a good reason. It's October. We are here to witness one of the most spectacular shows nature puts on anywhere in the world. Here, every year, with the cool autumn nights closing and the days shorten, a dazzling rite of colour descends on these northern forests. It's a sight not to be missed. And we're going to see it in one of the most privileged and unusual ways. We're on our way to Sugarbush Valley, high in Vermont's Appalachian Mountains, where a very special aircraft is waiting to carry us deeper into this beautiful landscape. But as we drive through the radiant autumnal countryside, there's a chance to see some of the life of Vermont. Vermont is in New England. And New England, it's been written, is the only old civilization of modern America. It isn't a frontier. It's not still being built like America's West. It's finished and complete. Vermont is steeped in history. Its white clapboard towns still breathe the austere but elegant simplicity of the Puritans, who arrived in this part of North America almost 400 years ago. visitors are proud of their heritage and proud of the unspoiled beauty of their land. Who can blame them? We've come at exactly the right time to savour this beauty at its height. It's the first week of October. The trees are just putting on their autumn coat of colours. A stunning transformation is underway in the landscape. As summer ends and the air cools down, the green chlorophyll in the leaves, pigment which allows the trees to breathe, starts to break down. As it fades, other pigments already in the leaves but hidden for months by the chlorophyll are revealed in all their glory. Xanthocyanins, the same pigment that makes apples red. Carotene, that makes carrots orange. And tannins, that make tea brown. For a few brief weeks in autumn, they too get their glorious moment in the sun. To experience the stunning effect of this to the full, we need to be airborne. When we finally arrive in the Sugarbush Valley, we're looking for the small airstrip where our craft is waiting for us. Our pilot leads us to our glider. Could there be any better way to experience the beauty of Vermont's autumn colours? As the plane that would pull us into the sky gets into position, the ground manager secures our cockpit, and before long, we're being pulled down the runway. It's up into the sky, but still waiting for the moment when we drop the dragline. And finally, we're free, soaring on the winds. Indians who once lived in these forests, the Iroquois and Abenaki, used to say that at the beginning of time, a celestial hunter went in search of the Great Bear, the constellation we know as the Plough. When he finally shot it with his arrow, the bear's blood cascaded to earth, staining the forest red. And then, as the hunter cooked his kill, the fat of the bear dripped to earth, leaving patches of yellow where they fell. As we glide effortlessly on the mountain winds, that Native American myth beautifully illuminates the scientific explanation. time to come back to Earth and look forward to our next destination. It's hard to believe that a year and our journey of a lifetime are almost over. We started almost 12 months ago on New Year's Eve in Paris, and now we're on our way to another great city and its unique New Year's celebrations, which will bring our journey to a close. This is New York, the Big Apple, one of the most vibrant and exciting cities on Earth. There's nowhere else quite like it. New Yorkers aren't famous for their reticence, and since we want to fit right in, there's only one way to get around here. A stretched limo. We're off to see New York in style. As we cross the Brooklyn Bridge into Manhattan, we can look forward to a memorable night out in the city that never sleeps. New York is a city of big business, but tonight the stock markets are closed, the offices are dark, and the city is on holiday. We've come at the perfect time to enjoy this great city in its New Year's season. It's a great chance to drink in the festive atmosphere and get a glimpse of the legendary window displays of the New York stores. Thousands mill around on the streets. Meanwhile, uptown at the Rockefeller Plaza, others are taking to the ice beneath the great Christmas tree. As the last minutes of the year tick away, we head for a real New Yorker event, which few know about, the New Year's run around Central Park. This is New York at its irreverent, fun-loving best. As the last seconds of the old year tick away, our journey of a lifetime is about to end.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Finally, the moment arrives. The runners are off, and the skies explode with fireworks. Our journey is over. We've circled the globe in 1 year and seen so many unforgettable sights. We've experienced some of the amazing beauty and diversity of our planet. What a special perspective a journey like this gives. Perhaps, like those privileged few who have seen it from space, we too can better appreciate the true wonder of our world.